That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are back yet again. Another episode of Woo Fantasy.
Woo!
NFL Draft Week.
Do it.
On tap, finally. We finally made it.
It's here.
That, of course, is Nick Heffley, co-host of the show in the background. We're there. It's NFL Draft Week. How are we feeling?
We're there, man.
Oh,
Dude,
man.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's I look forward to it every year, but I mean, it's that much more so when you're actually going to be there.
Yes. Yeah, we will. Woo Fantasy in attendance this year at the NFL Draft. Your boys here making the trek to Nashville for especially the first 2 days, Thursday night, Friday night primetime. I possibly will be heading up for the Saturday festivities as Mr. Nick Heffley there will have to trek back to Atlanta for work on Sunday. But I digress. We're going to be there. We're going to be ready to kick things off, seeing things live and in person, and that's what the preface of this show tonight is going to be about. First round NFL Draft. We're only 3 days away now. We're ready to talk about it. We're ready to get you covered. We're going to go over and go through my mock draft that's going to be live on rotoballer.com here within the next day or two. I have published my first round mock draft. We're going to be ready to go through it and touch on some on the picks that I've got and whether or not Nick disagrees, agrees with them, what he might think about a player in a certain position that I have him going to another team. We'll go through those as we make our way to glorious, glorious Nashville later on this week. It's going to be a big time. Definitely looking forward to it. It's kind of the kickoff to the Heffley wedding that's going to commence here in the next couple months as well. I know
2 months from today.
Yes, 2 months from today exactly is the case. That is, I didn't even really put two and two together there, which it's April 22nd, 2 and 2. Bing! How about that? Bringing it all back around, full circle, 2 and 2. April 22nd, June 22nd, the Nick Heffley wedding.
Well, I do everything on the 22nd. As long as I remember the 22nd every month, it's liable to be some type of event. So.
Yep, and yeah, for any of our baseball fans out there, Cardinal fans out there, April 22nd. Or not, June 22nd. Also, the return of Albert Pujols to St. Louis. Rejoice, St. Louis Cardinal fans. We get to see our hero back in town. But
yeah, that you were happy to see him go elsewhere for all that money.
Yeah, as I would be for any of these holy shit free agent signings in Major League Baseball. Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, $300 million contracts. I'll pass. Thank you very much. But that's baseball. I know we're here to talk some NFL draft. That is exactly what we're gonna do. Mock draft. Gonna go through the whole entire first round real quick. Kind of cover most of the. We'll go into more detail with the fantasy relevant players of the first round that I have. Mostly just kind of touch here and there on the defensive players that are going to be coming off the board, which there are going to be plenty. This is a very deep defensive
It's
draft.
a defensive line especially. This is probably one of the more deeper defensive line drafts that I've seen.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, front seven galore with this draft this year. I mean, defensive ends, whether it be D tackles, linebackers. I mean, there's plenty of guys to be had, even as deep as the 4th and 5th round. I mean, some guys that can step in and play some quality minutes on some teams, even as early as 2019. So. Yeah, definitely going to be a deep draft for the defensive players this year. But let's jump right into it and get right at it. Arizona Cardinals on the board, on the clock right now. First pick, I have them still going with Kyler Murray, although there has been some scuttlebutt the last couple of days that they are not interested in Kyler Murray amidst what original reporting was saying that they would be. I'm just chalking that up to smoke screens as we get closer to the draft.
Oh, it's got to be.
I mean, it's got to be a smoke screen. Kyler Murray, number one pick right off the board. I'm pretty sure you're agreeing with that.
Yeah, especially when the man Peter King says that he's going to go number 1 too. I mean, you got to trust that, right?
I mean, if
Yeah,
Peter
no,
King, come on now.
yeah. No, I think he's going number 1 overall right now. I think the only reason that they haven't, gone out further is obviously they're trying to get the best deal that they can for Josh Rosen.
Yeah. Which we've mentioned that on the show before. I still think the landing spot's going to be the Giants. But there's been a lot of speculation that he's going to go to the Redskins as well. So both of them NFC East teams, both of them quarterback needy teams. The Redskins more immediate than the Giants, but yeah, I do see Josh Rosen getting traded to either one of those two teams. But Kyler Murray, no brainer number 1 pick for the Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury gets his guy that he will be associated with and tied to implement his offense, that air raid offense that's becoming more and more popular in the NFL. Kyler Murray's gonna. I think he thrives more in this offense than a Josh Rosen would. So I think it's going to just be an easy pick for the Cardinals there. Fantasy implications of Kyler Murray, though, which I've mentioned before on the show here and in any of my articles that you might have seen on rotoballer.com. Kyler Murray is going to be the top pick as far as quarterbacks off the board in rookie drafts this year in dynasty leagues. But any value whatsoever for you in a seasonal league in 2019?
Yeah, I think in deeper leagues, especially leagues that you have 12 teams in, which I hope most of you are in 12-team leagues out there. I think he's going to be a latter half QB2 type of guy. I think with his running ability. His receivers in Arizona aren't exactly going to be great, but could he be like a Lamar Jackson kind of type that's going to put up better passing numbers? Sure. Is he going to be somebody I want to take over Josh Allen from last year? Probably not. There's definitely going to be a good number of quarterbacks that I'm going to put in front of Kyler Murray, but would he be worth a late flyer depending on the league that you're in? Sure.
Yeah. For me, if I have any interest in Kyler Murray at all, it's going to be if I've drafted a quarterback earlier that I'm extremely confident in, that if I'm going the Pat Mahomes route early, or if I'm going Baker Mayfield early, Aaron Rodgers early, guys that I know I'm going to be plugging in and week out for the first 10 to 11 weeks of the season just to see how Kyler Murray pans out. But he could have that late appeal in the season, kind of like we saw with Josh Allen last year and kind of like we saw with Lamar Jackson last year. The rushing statistics are going to be there. You're probably going to see a lot of value with him in those rushing leagues like, we've mentioned before, some leagues that we play in where you get a point for every 5 yards rushing. A guy like Kyler Murray is going to be extremely, extremely usable later on in the season once he picks up the pro game.
Oh, yeah. Those leagues like you and I are in where you get a point for every 5 yards rushing, you're looking, mid-level quarterback too. If not upper echelon quarterback too. You're looking 14, 15, 16 overall for something like that in those type of rushing leagues. So,
yeah, I agree with that. So that kicks it off there with Kyler Murray. That's we're both in agreement there with the Kyler Murray pick number 1 overall to the Arizona Cardinals. We'll find out come Thursday night. Number 2 right now, I'm probably a little bit different on this selection than what you've seen in some mock drafts out there on the interwebs right now. San Francisco 49ers, I have them taking Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle from Alabama, number 2 overall. How are you feeling with that?
Yeah, I think in terms of overall value, I think he's the second best player. Someone say he's probably the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
But I think Nick Bosa is just getting a lot more of the publicity. I'm probably leaning a little bit more toward Nick Bosa here at 2, but I think it's more of a system fit. The Niners, I believe, are a 3-4 team.
Yes.
Quinnen Williams is on the inside. Bosa's on the outside. I think Bosa would be a little better fit for the defense that they're going to run, but.
Well, the reason I kind of went the route with Williams here at this pick is the depth that they have currently Defensive end, whether it be the edge rushers. I mean, they just took Solomon Thomas a couple of years ago. They've got Eric Armstead out there. They made the deal for D Ford from Kansas City as well. I mean, they've got some pass rushers to line up on the outside, and what they might be missing currently is going to be that nose tackle to sit right in the middle and plug up the inside of the offensive line. So just a gut feeling, and we'll see how it plays out. But, Quinnen Williams, I think, makes a good fit here, but it's also, we're comparing apples to oranges. We're splitting hairs with these picks in the first few, 4 to 5, 6 picks here. All these guys could. I mean, you got Nick Bosa can go anywhere from 2 to 5. Quinnen Williams could go 2 to 5, and the guy that I have third going to the Jets right now, I've got Josh Allen, the linebacker / edge rusher from Kentucky. I've got him going to the New York Jets. I have Nick Bosa slipping down to number 4 to the Oakland Raiders. So that is going to be my next couple of picks. Do we have any disagreements there between those?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are going to be your top 4. Outside of Kyler Murray, not sure exactly the order. I mean, one thing you got to look at though, which I'm sure you've probably seen the rumors out there, is apparently the Jets are trying like crazy to trade down. It's probably going to be a when they're on the clock kind of a trade kind of a thing. But apparently they're trying to be able to move down the board a little bit, acquire some extra picks. So I mean, that's where it starts to get interesting. Apparently, is right there at number 3. I've even heard, number 2 that the Niners are looking to trade down too. So, a lot of value, a lot of teams. Yeah, I mean, which I mean, teams at this stage have to. I mean, I wouldn't doubt there's a lot of those teams in the top 5, 6 picks are looking to deal back because of all the depth in the first couple of rounds of this draft.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, the 49ers especially, if they do like a Quinnen Williams and they feel like they could drop down to 5, 6 and get that guy, and there's a team that's wanting to come up to get a player that they really, really do love, like a Nick Bosa or a Josh Allen, to get in front of one of the Jets or the Oakland Raiders, the 49ers we have seen just 2 years ago will be willing to grab all kinds of picks from a team just to move back one spot, like they did with the Bears for Mitchell Trubisky.
That's not even freaking stupid.
Which was a fantastic trade the night of. Completely hosing the Bears front office there.
And still to this day, what did I tell you? I said the move to get Trubisky. I like Trubisky. I just hated we had to give up that much to move up one pick when they weren't even going to take him anyway.
It was a complete move out of the draft day movie. You had Kevin Costner calling the Bears saying, "Hey, we're going to take this guy. We're going to take Trubisky if you don't move up to get him." And the Bears were like, "Oh shit, what do we do now? Here, just take 3 picks and we'll call it even."
And Solomon Thomas has not been good at all.
Solomon Thomas has had his hits and misses, but
it's been more misses than it's been hits.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a solid player for that defense so far. I'm not going to say he's been an all-pro type guy, but hell, you've not had an all-pro quarterback with Mitch Trubisky yet either. So
he's shown some flashes.
He's shown some flashes, but I think this year's going to be the big tell with Mitchell Trubisky and second year in a Matt Nagy offense. If he doesn't pick it up this year and have just an advanced improvement, aka like Jared Goff did the second year with Sean McVay, you might be questioning that pick already as a Bears fan.
Not yet.
So, anyways, we've gone through the 4th pick. 5th pick, I've got Montez Sweat, the linebacker from Mississippi State, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who Sweat is starting to gain more and more momentum on the draft board as well. I've been hearing a lot of some rumors that have been going around a little bit that there's some teams that are really, really looking to trade up to get Sweat. So that'll be a name to watch for on Thursday night as well. So Tampa Bay with Sweat. Do you have any qualms about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where you're a little off there. They lost Quan Alexander. I think this is where we're gonna go the first linebacker off the board right here. I think Devin White is gonna go right here, pick number 5.
I got him a little bit further down the board.
That you do.
Yep. But it's like I said, I think Sweat's starting to gain a little more momentum currently. I think some more teams are more interested in him as well. Moving to the first pick of the Giants' first round, which I will preface this by saying I have no trades in my mock draft that we're going over right now. Although I do know that there will be some draft day deals. We will see some movement on this board. But like I mentioned to Nick off air, if I could predict trades first night of the NFL between two teams, what picks are involved, and where the teams are going, I might as well move to Vegas. I might as well play the lottery because I could be a rich man if I could predict that. So I'm going to preface that by saying that. But the first pick of the first round for the Giants, I've got them going Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston. He's the second D tackle of the first 10 picks here. A lot of people do like him. He's another guy that's starting to climb up the board. I've been seeing more and more stuff on him over the last couple of weeks. He's not on the level with Queenan Williams, but he is not far off either. But the Giants are a team. I mean, they traded off Snacks Harrison last year, sent him off to the Colts. I believe it was the Colts. It might have been the Lions, I believe. I can't remember exactly which team he went to, but when they traded
I feel like it was the Lions.
I think it was the Lions, yeah. But after they made that trade, I mean, they've got a huge hole up the middle of that defensive front.
Huge.
And Ed Oliver's going to be a pick there that I think is going to fill that gap for them. So, to me, that's a no-brainer. That's one that I'm feeling that's a no-brainer pick in the first round.
Yeah, I think a lot of this depends on what their strategy is with their second pick that they're going to have coming about. But,
yeah.
You're not going to get the level of D lineman that you are with their second pick. I mean, so, why not go ahead and get that D lineman off the board?
Yeah, I mean, which, there's been rumors that the Giants could stick and stay right here and go ahead and grab one of the quarterbacks that are on the board. A lot of that's going to be a big tell on whether or not they feel like they're going to make the trade for Josh Rosen, if they feel like another player is going to be there at pick 17, which I do have them making that pick at pick 17. We'll get to. So 7th pick, going to be the Jaguars taking Brian Burns, defensive end out of Florida State. Any disagreement with that pick there?
Yeah, I really just don't see the Jags addressing the defensive side of the ball. I think this is where, I think, and you have him ranked really low from where my prediction is going to be. But I think T.J. Hockenson, if he doesn't go here to the Jags, I think he's going to go to the Lions or Buffalo, maybe even Denver if it slips down here. I think this is prime Hockenson territory. He's the top-rated tight end on a lot of these teams' boards. I think Jacksonville could sorely use a tight end. Detroit could as well. You saw how they, missed not having a great tight end in that offense, and then Buffalo right behind that as well. All these teams could use a tight end.
All of them could use a tight end, but it's also similar to the kind of the defensive side of the ball. Tight end is kind of a deep draft this year as well. I think the Jaguars, I believe I had them in my team preview article on Roto-Baller. I think I had them going with Irv Smith in the second round, the tight end out of Alabama. So I think they can grab a player later on to fit that need. The Jaguars, we saw last year that defense take a step back, so I think that they're going to kind of want to jump into the defensive side of the ball, try to get back to what could help them win ball games a couple of years ago. Nick Foles is the quarterback now. We've talked about that on a previous episode. They've got some receiver talent to utilize there. I think you're probably gonna see them grab a tight end, but I don't think that grabbing Hockenson at pick 7 makes sense for this team. That could be a team that could trade back to go get a Hockenson a few picks later.
I think it's high for Hockenson. We've talked about it. I don't think he's as great as some people are leading him on to believe. But there are teams that have a really high grade on him, so they're seeing it as a guy that's tight end ready. I think this is that anywhere from Jacksonville down to Green Bay, which you have pressing that pick that you have by Noah Fant going there. I mean, which I think Fan is a better fit than Hockenson for Green Bay anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is that prime territory. So I think you've got Hockenson rate way too low.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got him going to the right team, which we'll get to that later on as we kind of go through these picks. But yeah, I think I've got Hockenson going to the right fit. I think the team is going to get him that wants him the most. But we'll see how that shakes out. Like I said, I think I've got the addressing the defensive side of the ball for the Jaguars being a more of a higher concern here at this pick in the first round than grabbing a tight end that may or may not help Nick Foles find any success in this offense this year. But following them, pick 8, Greedy Williams, cornerback cornerback out of LSU going to the Detroit Lions. I think that's an obvious fit as well. Followed by the Buffalo Bills taking Andre Dillard, offensive tackle out of Washington State. Both of those two seems like they're kind of fitting some needs for both teams. Do you have anything that you think they will go a different route, either one of those two teams?
I mean, Detroit, I think, could be all over the board. I mean, they could go really anywhere on their defense. Detroit could even go a wide receiver as well. I mean, I think after Golden Tate was jettisoned last year, they could throw out a little surprise there. But I think their defense is getting better. So I think this could be a tight end. I think this could be a wide receiver. I feel like they've taken a corner in round 1 here in the last couple of years. So I don't necessarily know that they go that route. But yeah, for me, it's interesting. You have Andre Dillard. I don't disagree with Buffalo. Perhaps looking at tackle, it's interesting. You got Jawan Taylor and Jonah Williams going behind Dillard there. Yep. So interesting call.
Yeah, I think Dillard is a little bit higher on the board currently. More of a scheme fit is how I look at him as well. I think he's going to fit a little bit more what they're wanting to do with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you're talking about a team that's obviously going to try to run the ball a lot, set up some.
They need linemen.
Yeah, they do need linemen. They've got to protect Josh Allen, but dialing back into Detroit as well. I mean, we kind of mentioned and we talk about some wide receivers here and there, but I think the depth of that class is going to hurt the value of the guys at the top of the class because you're going to have so many of these teams that could possibly go the route of getting a wide receiver. Detroit could use a receiver. I mean, there's teams on here that could, in the top half of the first round that could go wide receiver, but
yeah, I mean, the reason I think Detroit's going to go offense is because the window on Matt Stafford is beginning to start closing.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get weapons in there, they're not going to do anything. They finally got the run game at least somewhat figured out. I think they're going to get him some weapons. I really do.
But then you have to look at it the same mindset that I have when I'm kind of going through and looking at some of these picks is who's the head coach? Where does he come from? Matt Patricia, defensive-minded head coach, comes from the Bill Belichick tree. They're gonna probably take more shots as far as offensive players through free agency than they will in drafting and developing. Patricia seems like a guy that's going to really try to hone in on defensive players, get that side of the ball figured out, and hopefully just grind out wins with a strong defense and a good running game. I mean, we even saw it this last year. I mean, Matt Stafford took he took a huge step back as far as offensive production from previous years under that first year of Matt Patricia. I mean, they tried to run the ball a little bit more with LeGarrette Blount and Kerryon Johnson. And the thing that hurt them the most, though, was that defense was awful. One of the worst in the league, and I think that's going to be something they're going to address early and often in this draft, and that's why I had them going with the cornerback, somebody to pair with Darius Slay in a division that's really adept at wide receiver talent. I mean, you look at the Vikings, you look at the Packers, you look at the Bears. All three of those teams have standout wide receivers on their teams that can really attack you, underneath, over the top, whether, either way you want to look at it. I mean, the Lions need somebody besides Darius Slay to do some coverage out there, and I think that's why I've got them going with the best cornerback in the draft, and that is Greedy Williams. Like I mentioned as well, Andre Dillard. I think it's just more of a scheme fit for the Bills and what they're going to try to do with that offense this year as well. Um, Going back to back, 10 and 11, Broncos, Bengals. I have two quarterbacks going back to back right here. Drew Lock to the Broncos at pick 10, and Dwayne Haskins in probably a bit of a surprise going to the Cincinnati Bengals, staying in the state of Ohio. The Ohio
Selling some
State
season
quarterback.
tickets there.
Going for the season tickets there, but I really do think he's going to take over that offense after this year. I think Andy Dalton is on the way out the door, but Drew Lock, I think that pick to the Broncos has been set up for some time now.
Is that a lock?
That is a lock. Yeah, that is going to lock it up. Drew Lock to the Denver Broncos. I think John Elway, I keep reading about how he's been infatuated with him through the entire draft process. I would really be surprised if the Broncos don't go Drew Lock there.
Yeah, I'm tending to agree with you on both of those picks. I don't know why it just seems really weird. I can picture Locke in a Denver uniform. I can picture Kyler Murray in an Arizona uniform. I don't know why I just can't picture Dwayne Haskins in
a Bengals uniform, right?
This seems weird. I don't know why. It just seems really odd that I can picture him being a Redskin. I can picture him going to a number of these teams, but I just can't picture Dwayne Haskins in a Bengals.
Well, I mean, there has been some rumors out that the Giants at 6 are kind of zeroing in on Haskins. I don't think that there's any chance of that happening.
A lot of teams. I think they've moved on. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, and I read the perfect comparison, the perfect comp for Dwayne Haskins and his pro potential the other day. Byron Leftwich.
I can see that.
I can see that. I mean, a completely immobile quarterback that's really accurate if you give him a clean pocket. He doesn't really get out and make moves. He doesn't create his own space. If you keep a clean pocket for a Dwayne Haskins type, he's gonna make good, accurate throws. He's gonna do what you need him to do, just like Byron Leftwich would do. But if you ask a Stephen A. Smith, he's the one of the more mobile quarterbacks in this draft because obviously Stephen A. Smith doesn't watch football.
He knows football, let me tell you.
Yeah. So, Drew Lock, Dwayne Haskins, both of those two are going to have some fantasy appeal. That is the purpose of this show. More dynasty appeal than anything, correct? You're not going to have any value in these guys in a seasonal league this year.
Neither of these guys, I don't even anticipate that they'll start before week 10, if not the whole year. Yeah. I mean, you've got Locke that
going to be behind Flacco
there.
Yep.
Haskins has got the ginger ninja in front of him.
The red rifle.
I'm not seeing any of these guys having much potential. If anything, they may be a late season Lamar Jackson-esque kind of a pickup midway through.
Yeah. Once the team is out of it, you want the fan base to keep coming to games.
Nobody I'm drafting. I think in a dynasty league, these guys are going at the earliest round 2.
Yeah, they're going to probably.
There's no way I'm taking these guys.
Like I mentioned on the previous show, I think if you're going to be going after a Drew Lock or a Dwayne Haskins in a rookie draft, it's going to be because you've got a proven veteran right now, and you're already kind of planning on the future. You can compete for a title now, but you want a seamless transition into your next quarterback. And that would be where you would jump on a Lock and Haskins in round 2, round 3 in a rookie draft this year. So going to pick 12, you did preface it earlier and did mention it as well. Noah Fant, the tight end from Iowa, I have going to the Green Bay Packers at 12. Seems like an obvious fit there as well. They need a tight end in this offense. They have some receivers to work the ball towards. Of course, now they've got Matt LaFleur, the head coach for the Green Bay Packers, who we saw as a offensive coordinator for 1 year over here in Nashville with the Titans. Comes from the Sean McVay coaching tree. And I'm not really excited about what LaFleur is going to bring to this offense. He really didn't target tight ends very often. Last year, of course, it was Delanie Walker going down with an injury early in the year. And then past Delanie Walker, there's not a lot of depth on that Titans depth chart at the position.
He didn't really target a lot when he was in LA either. So I
Yeah,
mean,
and so I mean that's a question mark for me. It's an obvious fit for the team, but if they draft the player, how does he work into the system?
I can almost see them drafting more of like a DK Metcalf, to be honest, or
Oof.
DK Metcalf, or throwing a wide receiver out there as well. I mean,
Yeah.
that could easily be the move. If not, I mean, the other thing too, they do still need to protect Aaron Rodgers a little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
They got to quite a bit last year and open up some running lanes. So um, I
I've
definitely
seen
see them
Jawan
sticking on the
Taylor.
outs.
Like I've seen Jawan Taylor
But
move mentioned here. I've seen Jonah Williams mentioned here.
uh,
Offensive tackles, offensive linemen could easily be the pick here for the Packers. It seems like Noah Fant's kind of a no brainer for me, and that's why I went with that pick here in that position for
yeah.
the Packers.
And I'll say this too. I mean, they lost Clay Matthews. I mean, they could go in a number of different directions with this pick.
Yeah, it seems that way with a
Really,
lot of these teams.
yeah, really, I think the best move for Green Bay is to trade down. They've got some needs out there that they really need to address. I think this is one of those natural, trade spots, as well to hop maybe a team like the Giants if they don't get a quarterback in with that first pick, to hop Washington if they haven't gotten a quarterback and people think that they're going that way. It could be a natural hop spot for them, because I mean, again, linebacker. I mean, this team has a lot of different needs. I mean, outside of running back and wide receiver one, they don't have a lot of solid guys on that team.
You're not a believer in Marquez Valdez Scantling, Equanimous Saint Brown,
St. Brown.
Geronimo Allison.
I'd believe more of a believer in Geronimo Allison than any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, like I put in my team preview for the Packers, and I've mentioned on our little previous show to this one. I mean, I think second round AJ Brown to the Packers seems like an absolute home run of a pick. But I'm also seeing a little bit of AJ Brown to the Niners in round two talk right now as well. So I think he's kind of starting to kind of come up the board a little bit. But I do think the Packers take a wide receiver at some point in the draft. But we keep mentioning the fact that some of these positions are so deep. I think the Packers could probably go for a guy like a Fant, who is kind of heads and shoulders above at the position to fill an area of need for them on this team. Do you draft Noah Fant as a Packer in redraft for 2019?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think he definitely comes off the board, and he's probably, it's kind of like Kyler Murray. He's going to be a mid to late two. I definitely know if he's a number one on my team, I'm not loving life at all. I mean, you still got the Reverend Jimmy Graham there to compete with catches therewith. So yeah, for me, even if it's a wide receiver, I'm loving it a whole lot more than it is a tight end.
Yeah, I mean that's to me. I mean, you get a Noah Fant going to this team here. I don't know how much I'm in love with him in seasonal leagues this year, just based on the primary fact of how well I mean, do they utilize the position very much at all? Not necessarily. It's one thing we've seen, but Jimmy Graham seems like he's going to be a cut candidate. I think he's going to wind up getting sent packing. They're going to allow him to go to another team somewhere.
Packers are going to send him packing.
Packers sending Jimmy Graham packing. Yes, play on words there, pun intended. So, he's more of a dynasty guy. Noah Fant will be. You'll probably the same way with a lot of the tight end class from this last year. Like a Mike Gesicki and Mark Andrews and guys. The guys from Baltimore. You're probably going to see more value out of them in year 2, year 3 than you see in year 1. I think that'll be the same thing with Noah Fant if he goes to the Green Bay Packers here. Not a lot of value to be had in 2019, but more so to be had years 2, 3 moving on from that point forward.
Yeah. If anything, and again, we don't know where these guys are going. We're just speculating.
Speculation. Yeah, speculation.
But I think Irv Smith and Hockenson, wherever they go, is going to be more of a year one guy. If your draft goes out like this, which granted, I'm assuming you have Irv Smith in round 2, because I don't see him on the draft board here. So, in this case, if you have, I won't tell everybody where Hawkinson's going since we hadn't got to him yet, but in this case, I really wouldn't draft Fant except for a late flyer, maybe even as a 3, or I better be getting a really good third tight end if I want to get Noah Fant. So
Yeah.
I just don't.
I agree with
don't
you.
see him. Which, granted, for me, I think Fant goes a little bit later in round 1, but that's my take.
All right, and then moving on real quick, picks 13, picks 14, Juwan Taylor, offensive tackle from Florida, staying home, going to the Miami Dolphins, who are really just going to be trying to build for next year with this draft this year. They're going to go on a complete tanking spree this year in hopes to get Tui Tagovailoa next year in the draft to get set up for their quarterback of the future. That is what I'm expecting right now, but. Moving on past them, Devin White, linebacker from LSU, who you previously mentioned. I have him going 14th overall to the Atlanta Falcons, who see a lot of SEC football. LSU, I think that's going to be kind of an obvious fit for that team as well. They need defensive help. We saw a team in Atlanta last year that could score points on points on points, but they gave up points on points on points. So they're going to need some defensive help, and I think Devin White is a easy fit at linebacker for that team down in Atlanta.
I think there's no way he lasts that long.
I
no
think
way.
He does.
Top linebacker in the league with some pass rushing ability. I don't think there's any way he lasts all the way to mid round 1.
Well, I mean, there's a chance. You never know. It is the NFL draft.
It is the NFL draft.
And like you just mentioned a second ago, we are speculating here. You believe he's going to go much earlier? I think he winds up exactly right here in this spot. That's just my gut feeling, my hunch on a Devin White right now. And then moving into the much ballyhooed, much talked about DK Metcalf. I have him going 15th overall to the Washington Redskins. I hate him. I hate the pick. I hate where he's going. I'm not a big DK Metcalf fan. I make this pick for him to go to the Redskins here because it seems like that's the obvious fit. But as far as fantasy-wise, 2019 especially, I do not feel good about his prospects for this next year. But what do you feel about DK Metcalf if this is the pick to the Redskins?
This is the pick. I want to know who the quarterback is before I start worrying about DK Metcalf.
Case Keenum.
Or are they going to trade for Rosen?
Even still, if you look at either one of them, they both are really more adept at throwing short to intermediate range. They don't really have great deep balls, and that is what DK Metcalf does well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Keenum showed, at least, maybe not last year, but he showed 2 years ago that with really good wide receivers that he had in Minnesota that he can throw a good deep ball.
He can. But that was also
a
scheme that was designed to really fit well with what he could do. They brought out his talents a lot better than what I feel Jay Gruden can do with a quarterback.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, they're going to be getting, and let us not forget when we start talking Rookie of the Year, let's not forget that Darius Geis is going to be in the mix for Rookie of the Year here, year one, who's not going to get drafted here in the 2019 draft. So let's not forget about Darius Geis coming out there. But yeah, I hope for DK Metcalf's sake, I hope he doesn't go to Washington. If he does go there, if Case Keenum is the quarterback, I mean, I think just on top wide receiver alone, I think he's a top 3 or 4 type of pick.
Yep.
In a dynasty league, in a redraft league, I mean, you're looking number 4, number 5 wide receiver type of range. You know, he's not going to be like, you know, some of the receivers we've seen like Calvin Ridley last year that, you know, he just got thrown in a really good situation. If he's going to Washington, I'm not as big of a fan. If he waits a little bit and maybe goes to, I mean, can you imagine DK Metcalf in you know, a Steeler or a Seahawk uniform? That's looking a lot better than it is in Washington.
Yeah, I can see it more being a fit with the Seahawks. If they didn't make the moves that they've already made at wide receiver in the offseason, him going to Buffalo seems like an obvious, just a dream matchup with a Josh Allen, a guy that throws one of the best deep balls in the league to one of the best prospects as far as a deep route runner in this draft class. I think that would be an absolute monster match between those two. But I mean, they've already brought in two receivers in Cole Beasley and John Brown to pair with the Robert Fosters and the Zay Jones that they already have on the roster. I don't see them going that route. But I'm like you. Yeah, if he fell to the Steelers, I don't know if that they would make that pick because they've got Juju playing out of the slot. They've got James Washington there right now. I would see them more kind of going more the veteran route instead of going completely young at the position.
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be the better move is to go a veteran, but their offense would go right back really quick to being very elite. Because I mean, I would James Washington I think will be decent. I don't know how great he's necessarily going to be, but you throw in a DK Metcalf in that offense. That's
what we've seen is the Steelers are very good about developing a number 2 receiver in recent years. They did it with
Sanders back
Brown.
4 or 5 years ago.
They did it with Emmanuel Sanders. They did it with Juju Smith-Schuster just over the last couple of years as well. So, I'm not worried about James Washington. I think he was going to pan out just fine with the Steelers this upcoming season. But yeah, DK Metcalf for me, even with this landing spot in rookie drafts, he's not going to be my number 1 receiver that I'm going to take in rookie drafts. I'm still going to probably have him in that 3, 4, 5 range. There are some other prospects I like a little bit more ahead of him, even though I do not have them being drafted in the actual draft ahead of him.
It's all about landing spot.
It's all about landing spot.
It's all about landing spot. DK Metcalf goes to the Redskins. I don't like him as much as I do like him going to some other teams.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy that's going to get drafted early in redrafts just on name alone. And people are going to have the recency bias of what they saw at the combine and videos that they've seen online of him working out and looking like a beast. People are going to want to take him and think that that's going to automatically project into value in fantasy football, and it's just not. So I'm going to steer clear of DK Metcalf, especially in redraft this year. If only I could get him at the right price. If I'm further down the board in round 1 in a rookie draft, I might debate on pulling him in onto my roster. But for me, I don't think the value, what he can give you, is going to be worth the price you're going to have to pay to get him. But moving on, we're halfway through the first round. Jonah Williams, offensive tackle, Alabama, going to the Carolina Panthers. Another kind of an obvious pick. I think they're going to wind up I think the Panthers are really going to try to address that offensive line situation over the course of the first 2 to 3 rounds in some form or fashion. This is going to be...
They're going to have to.
It's Christian McCaffrey's team, basically, at this point now. Cam Newton is starting to kind of hand over the reins. He seems to be getting more easily hurt as his career progresses. And, right now, he's still not thrown a pass yet. He has not yet thrown a ball in the offseason, kind of like what we saw out of Andrew Luck a couple years ago. We could be sitting here looking at a similar situation of an Andrew Luck where it's just we're going to have health questions abound on a Cam Newton, and they're going to have to address the offensive line and to protect A, Cam Newton, and B, open holes for Christian McCaffrey in this running game if Christian McCaffrey has any hopes of being the number 1 running back in fantasy football in 2019. So that, for me, I think that's an obvious pick there. Do you have any disagreement with Jonah Williams?
I disagree with which offensive lineman and the order you have them in, but I think they're going O-line.
Okay, there we go. That's nothing wrong with that. Disagreement is fine. I'm not sure if we'll have any disagreement on this next pick here. Pick 17, Daniel Jones, quarterback of the New York Giants' future.
I think you've been hearing it all along that they even like Daniel Jones high enough to get him at 6.
Yeah,
so if he's sitting there this late, I think they're definitely going there.
Yeah, and for me, I'm not a big Daniel Jones fan. Even if if the pick is made by the Giants here, as me being a Cowboys fan, I'm really happy about that because I just don't think he's going to project into the NFL very well at all. But in terms of fantasy value, yeah, he's not going to be a guy that's ever going to be a weekly starter for you, whether it be in a dynasty situation, or I mean, obviously not going to have any value whatsoever in 2019 in seasonal drafts.
Well, well, I'll say this, if the draft comes out with these four quarterbacks like you predicted, Daniel Jones will have more value in a redraft league than Dwayne Haskins and Drew Lock will. Only because if things are not going well, I think they're going to be a lot quicker to pull the plug on Eli than they would be on potentially, at least this year anyway, with the defense that Denver's going to have under Vic Fangio. I mean, Cincinnati is still a borderline 8-8 team where I think they're going to be in contention most of the year. The Giants are going to suck.
Really bad. They're going to be horrible.
Yeah, so I think we'll see Daniel Jones before we see the other, either Lock or Haskins.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Then moving on, I'm going to have a few picks here in a row of mostly defensive, offensive line players. Got first off Cody Ford, Oklahoma offensive tackle, going to the Minnesota Vikings at 18. Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan, going to the Titans, pick 19. Byron Murphy, the cornerback out of Washington, I've got him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle from Clemson, I've got him going to the Seattle Seahawks. Do we have any thoughts on those four picks there?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is that spot in the draft. I like Christian Wilkins a lot out of Clemson. Byron Murphy, I mean, could, depending on who you talk to, be, the top-rated corner, if not the number two, which you've got him number two right here. So, yeah, no, I mean, I can definitely see where you're thinking on all these picks here. So.
Yeah. Now, I will mention this real quick because I'm about to bring him up for the next pick in this draft, but there has been talk here lately. In my team preview, I did have originally the Titans taking N'Keal Harry at pick 19 in the first round, but I've since changed that pick. There's been talks that Marquise Hollywood Brown could be in the discussion for the Titans at 19, and I'm not a fan of that. And if the Titans do make that move, I think it's kind of a bad move. I mean, Hollywood Brown
I'll not be as happy.
Now, Hollywood Brown is a strict slot receiver, and you just went out and paid 4 years, 50-something million to Adam Humphries to play strictly out of the slot for the Titans.
Adam Humphries has shown what he can do when he doesn't have a quarterback back there that he's a little familiar with in Tampa Bay. So.
Yeah. So I don't like that pick at all.
I don't like.
Not to mention the fact that he's still nursing the Liz Frank injury that he sustained towards the end of the year, leading into the offseason, testing programs. I think a guy that's 170 pounds playing receiver in the NFL who's already battling foot injuries is not a good sign. That's why I'm kind of lower on Marquise Brown than a lot of other people when it comes in terms of rankings.
Me personally, I don't like if a receiver goes to Baltimore, I'm not going to be. I'm really. I don't care. I mean, if you're a running back like we were talking about with Mark Ingram, hey, that's great. You're going to get lanes, you're going to get little dump offs, but as a wide receiver in Baltimore, you're going to have to get such a volume of work to be out there because they're going to run the ball when they get.
Yeah, I was going to setting up the pick Marquise Brown to the Ravens at 22 overall. That's strictly, I've got him down really strictly as a replacement to John Brown in this offense. The guy that can play deep, get down the field, open the top of the defense. I mean, again, he's gonna have to really do damage with limited volume in this offense. You just hit the nail on the head with this offense. Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram. It's a run-based offense. They're 3-4 deep at tight end. They are going to set up to block defensive linemen, open holes for the running game, and you're probably going to be looking at like a 70-30 ratio run to pass this year out of the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be as old school high school football as you can imagine when it comes to the creativity of the Baltimore Ravens offense in 2019, and which also leads into the fact of why I'm not really high on Lamar Jackson in drafts right now either. He's not going to give you the stats you need to perform well as a quarterback passing the ball. And if teams figure him out and learn how to shut him down running the ball, you're dead in the water with Lamar Jackson at this point in time. So I think Marquise Brown pick to the Ravens is going to be something to where they can try to get him down the field a handful of times during the game, just to try to keep the defense honest, try to keep them from loading in 9 into the box to shut down the running game. I don't see much in terms of fantasy value with Marquise Brown, especially in seasonal. There's possibly some dynasty appeal. It just depends on how Lamar Jackson pans out over the next few years.
He's gonna go 5-6 or so. If that's a pick, somebody's gonna, just on literally him being a round 1 wide receiver, somebody's gonna take him.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing too. I was seeing some talk the other day about how he was more helpful for Kyler Murray at Oklahoma this last year, whereas I'd really probably look at it as vice versa with that. I think Kyler Murray's ability to get out and create space, create some plays on the run, really fed into what Marquise Brown could do well and get an open space himself. Use his electric ability to get up and down the field. I think that was more Kyler Murray making Marquise Brown look good than what was Marquise Brown making Kyler Murray look good. So I think you're getting a little bit ahead of yourselves with the narrative out there on Marquise Brown. I think he's just going to be another guy, another small receiver like we've seen popping into this league over here in the last few years. John Ross comes to mind from the Cincinnati Bengals, a couple of years ago. Guy that comes in, he's a blazer, can run up and down the field as fast as anybody on the field, but cannot stay on the field because of health issues. So you're probably going to see a lot of that out of Marquise Brown over the first couple of years of his NFL career. Like I said, I've got him going to the Ravens. I'm not really excited about the pick. I don't think it's going to be that great. But anyway,
yeah.
I digress. Moving on. Going to 23, the Houston Texans. I've got them taking Chris Lindstrom, offensive guard out of Boston College. Just
maybe the most unsexy pick of the entire
It really is. It was just, it fills a need. Another team that, let's be honest, they could probably go secondary, but at this point with both Murphy and Greedy Williams off the board, I think cornerback kind of is devalued at this point. I don't think that they're going to reach for like the next guy I've got on the board is Rocky Sin. I don't think they're going to reach for him that early. There's plenty of other cornerbacks that you can get in round 2, round 3. Lindstrom's just a solid pick. Adds depth to the offensive line, can help them protect Deshaun Watson, which was a major issue for this team last year. They led the league in sacks. That offensive line was the worst in football. They need pieces along that offensive line that can gel and help protect their franchise quarterback. That's why I went with Lindstrom there. Not a sexy pick, but a smart pick for the Houston Texans, I believe. Next pick, Oakland Raiders making our next fantasy relevant pick of the first round. Josh Jacobs, the only running back I have going in round 1, going to the Oakland Raiders here at pick 24.
This feels like a lock, doesn't it?
Feels like a lock. I think
I've
been dead set on him going to ever since the Jordan Howard trade to the Eagles. I think I've had Jacobs going to the Raiders ever since.
Yeah,
I mean they've signed Isaiah Crowell. He's technically the current starter at this moment. They could go back and grab Marshawn Lynch and bring him back into the fold as well. He's technically still a free agent, but I'm not sure that they're going to go out and spend the money on him.
The only team I can take a guess at that goes there, if the Texans really want to get that next guy after Lamar Jackson, which Deontay Foreman, maybe that guy,
Miller.
But he hasn't.
Lamar Miller.
What did I say?
You said Lamar Jackson. You were on the Ravens still.
Lamar Miller. I think that's the only other team in front of this that could go running back. I don't see. I'm going back and looking here real quick at other teams in this area that could go running back. I mean, if another team goes running back, it is going to be before this pick. If it's not the Texans, I don't know who it is. If not,
really not. I mean,
nobody else needs a running back.
I mean, you could go all the way up to Miami. Miami could technically go running back, but I have them going running back in round 2 in my team preview. Same thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They could technically go running back. You're hearing a lot of talk about how the coaching staff is liking what they're seeing out of Ronald Jones so far in early practices.
Really? Okay.
Who knows with that? We've seen the Ronald Jones show before. It's nothing spectacular. But Josh Jacobs to the Raiders, like what you mentioned, it seems like it could be a lock. Adds some diversity to that offense. He's a guy that, in limited snaps at Alabama, has shown that he can run the ball. He can go in between the tackles. He can bounce it outside. He has the burst to be able to get into the secondary and get down the field. But he can also catch passes coming out of the backfield, too. So he's a good combination back for a team that really has that in two separate players. So, you got Jalen Richard, your third down back, catches passes out of the backfield. Isaiah Crowell right now is going to be the early down back that does a lot of the rushing duties. But if you get a Josh Jacobs type, he's a guy that
I guess they still have Skittles.
Maybe
they still got Skittles.
They
I don't know.
Have
none of those guys are gonna be. I think what John Gruden wants in that offense, and especially going forward. So Josh Jacobs goes right there. He's a top 3 pick in Dynasty.
For sure. I mean, you're hearing a lot of comps with Josh Jacobs as far as coming out of some of the Raiders, kind of beat writers and things, that they think John Gruden's comparing him to Charlie Garner. A guy that he's had previously when he was in Oakland, and a guy that did really, really well in fantasy. So if you could get a Charlie Garner type of running back and type of value out of Josh Jacobs, then he's going to have instant appeal in 2019. He's going to be a guy that could easily as a running back 3 this year and could push to be a running back 2 depending on how they use him. But definitely, if he sticks and goes to the Raiders here, rookie draft wise, he'll probably be the top pick or the second pick in rookie drafts, just for volume, just for the sheer fact of what he'll be able to do on the field for
just because of the path that he'll probably have to carry.
Yeah, he's gonna see a lot of volume back there. Which then,
speaking of Charlie Garner, I tell you what though. Quick diversion. Speaking of Charlie Garner, which reminds me about Tennessee Volunteers running back. We got to go RIP to the first Tennessee Vols running back that I can remember when I was growing up, Reggie Cobb.
Yeah.
Just passed away the other day. Yeah, sad stuff. He was the first Tennessee running back that I remember when I was growing up there, and sad. I didn't realize that he was a scout for the Niners there. So sad to hear about that, about Tennessee Vols great there. So
yeah, kind of started off a good run of Tennessee running backs through the course of a good solid 20 years at the university. So. But jumping back into it, going Philadelphia, I got DeAndre Baker, cornerback from Georgia, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Obvious need in the secondary. They struggled there in the secondary for most of 2018. Indianapolis, I got Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle from Mississippi State, going to the Colts at 26. Cleveland Farrell, Clemson, defensive end, going to the Raiders at 27, their third pick of the first round. Who knows if they make all 3 picks in the first round, there's a good chance that they trade a couple of those picks to move up to get someone else. Who knows? We'll see how things shake out Thursday night. And then Rashawn Gary, the defensive tackle from Michigan, I've got going to Los Angeles to the Chargers. And 29, interesting pick here that I've been kind of had a hunch on the last few days. Wide receiver N'Keal Harry, Arizona State, going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Pick 29. We have some issues with Tyreek Hill. I think we all know
just a little bit.
That. Just the other day, the news came out and dropped that his child had to be removed from the home. Which has led to lots of speculation that there's going to indeed be a suspension coming from the league. B, could be another Kareem Hunt situation on our hands. The Chiefs could just outright cut the guy, no matter how talented he is and how well he fits into their offense. They're going to make a stand and get rid of a troublemaker of a player, which at this point in the draft, I think N'Keal Harry going to Kansas City is a seamless transition, just in case something were to go amiss in a foul with Tyreek Hill
even if it doesn't, he's a guy that the Chiefs could really use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Chiefs could definitely go defense with this pick. Don't get me wrong, but to add somebody like N'Keal Harry, if he lasts this long, which I don't think he's going to last this long, I think he's going to go a little higher. But he would instantly, for me, I personally would knowing that I have Pat Mahomes there at the quarterback position for a while. To me, he's the number one player in dynasty formats.
Yep.
He becomes a number 3 to a number 4 player, wide receiver, I should say, in redraft leagues this year.
Yeah, I
so
mean, not
he
to
would
mention,
he would instantly be the highest ranked guy that I would have.
they've got Sammy Watkins, but Sammy Watkins cannot stay healthy. We've seen that. They need another body in the receiver room, and I think N'Keal Harry's going to be a guy that can come in, jump in right away, and get some really good value and some nice production in this offense, which we saw with Pat Mahomes last year. Is just an explosive offense. I do like N'Keal Harry. I think he's going to be a guy that I will probably wind up targeting even in seasonal leagues this year. Just depends on the price you can get him for. But in Dynasty, I couldn't agree with you more. I think he's going to be him and Jacobs probably right now. You would look at 1 and 2 in rookie rankings, in rookie drafts, if the landing spots shake out the way that I've got them right now. Finishing out the first round, we've got Garrett Bradbury, NC State center, going to the Green Bay Packers here at the bottom end of round 1. Rocky Ya-Sin, who I just mentioned a minute ago, the cornerback from Temple, going to the Los Angeles Rams. I think there's kind of a little bit of talk that he can play a mix between safety and cornerback. You've got a team that's got Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters currently locked in at the outside corners, so they could use a guy that's going to be able to play a little bit more nickel cornerback or drop back and play a little more free safety. I think that's going to be a good scheme fit for Rocky Ya-Sin to the Rams. And then finally finishing off the first round, yes, it probably is a little bit low, but I think the New England Patriots in some form or fashion will come out of this draft with TJ Hockenson. Whether they've got to move up with one of the 12 picks that they've got in this draft to get him, I think they're going to wind up with Hockenson. So to me, it's just a no-brainer. Yes, I know that they've brought in some tight ends through free agency, but none of those guys are going to be able to do anything fantasy-wise or to help this offense moving forward. Hockenson seems like the obvious replacement for Gronk, who just recently retired. Hockenson I just think is going to wind up as a Patriot come by the end of Thursday night. Whether it be earlier in round 1 or whether it be at this pick at the end of round 1, I think he's going to be a Patriot.
It almost seems too easy as well. I mean, just kind of like the Josh Jacobs pick to Oakland. I mean, it seems like it seems like it's just a natural fit that he's going to go to the Pats, right?
It does. It does seem that way, and I mean, it almost sets up to the factor where you're going to see some other team take Hockenson, whether or not they could use him or have the need at tight end, just to keep the Patriots from getting him. That seems like that could be a story, a little bit of a drama to unfold on Thursday night. You could probably see the telephone lines ringing up there at Foxborough. A lot of teams calling the Patriots and going, "What do you want? What do you want for Hockenson? Because we're going to take him right now." Like what we mentioned earlier with the 49ers. I think that somebody's probably going to put the Patriots in hostage crisis mode and threaten to take their player and try to get something from that team. But I do think Hockenson winds up with the Patriots, like I said. Which, in turn, I mean, fantasy-wise, we're here to talk about fantasy implications and everything. I think Hockenson immediately becomes a draftable tight end 1 right out of the gates in 2019. Easily top 10. I'm not sure how high I would rank him currently right now. But, I mean, you could probably see him coming off the board anywhere from like 7th, 8th at the position. I'm not going to dispute the fact that Tom Brady did not really look like Tom Brady for most of the season last year. I think that passing game is starting to kind of see a little bit of cracks as Tom Brady's right here on the verge of retirement himself. So I'm not sure exactly how much of a value Hockenson is going to have in fantasy, especially in 2019. but he'll have enough to be able to give you tight end one value for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just see Hawkinson. Somebody again, he's going to be one of those guys who's got to go to the right team. I think he's going way higher. I mean, is it a natural fit? The Pats are going to get him. Yeah, are they going to be able to get him? They're going to have to move a lot of capital to be able to move him. Because again, I you know, in doing a little mock draft earlier, and we need to do NFL.com has a predicted pick. We need to do a pick with some of the listeners here and see who's going to be able to beat the host here. But I've got Hawkinson going all the way up at 7, which means the Pats would have to go to 6 to be able to get him with the Giants. Could that happen? Yeah. I agree. I think it's way too high. But somebody's going to get really turned on by Hawkinson, and they're going to go up and try to get him. So again, do I think it's too high? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I see a team going up and actually making this pick before 15? He's going before 15.
He could. That's the wonders of the NFL draft.
Teams are viewing him as too complete. He is going to go higher.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you on that point whatsoever. I just, through all the preparations and everything that I've done with the draft, like I said, I cannot make the call on exactly what trade will be made, where the Patriots will wind up to go to get Hawkinson. I know they'll wind up with Hawkinson, but I just don't know where he's going to land. And I don't know how far up to move the Patriots draft capital-wise, what they're going to have to give up. I mean, you're talking about a team that they're more adept that they'll just trade out of the first round if Hawkinson's gone at that point than they would to try to trade up to get him. That's just how that front office works. They rarely move up to get a player. It's most of the time they move back because they see a grouping of about 10 players that they want. And if they've still got about 7 guys on the board, they'll move back just to go get one of the guys of the group of 7 that they like. That's just how they operate. And then, I mean, if you see Hawkinson go earlier in the draft, the Patriots might stick right there at 32 and go ahead and grab Herb Smith and make him a first-round pick at tight end. I think that speaks to the depth of the class. They can wait. Hell, they could wait till 2nd, 3rd, 4th round and get Jay Sternberg, Texas A&M's tight end. I mean, he's not as good as Hawkinson, but will he get the job done for him? Sure.
Yeah, I think he'll get the job done, but I don't think those guys are viewed as being as a complete fit as Hawkinson is.
No, not at all.
Teams are absolutely, from everything that I've heard and read out there, teams are just absolutely salivating over this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to really kind of move up that board. I agree with you on that, but do I think it's going to be something that now I know how the Patriots front office operates. I've seen them on draft night for years and years and years under Bill Belichick make just some of the most obviously boneheaded moves, trading back. When there's other players that could fit in their scheme that they could go ahead and make the pick at the spot that they're at, that they never do because they'd rather accumulate picks, and that's why you see a lot how they continue to be successful year in and year out is because they'll go through and they'll go grab free agents at the right price to come and plug and play instead of trying to develop a young player. Rarely do you ever see the Patriots really develop a young player that they've drafted.
Right.
So they're more about getting a guy that's out there that's proven that he can play at the NFL level, and that's something that I see here. They're not going to get backed into a corner if a team at 14 says that we're going to take Hawkinson at 13, 14, 15. They're going to call the Patriots and be like, hey, we're about to take Hawkinson. You know what the Patriots are going to do? They're going to go, take him. We'll get the next guy. They're not going to sweat it. That's just how the Patriots are. And that's why they keep winning, and that's why we all hate them. I mean, you're talking to a Cowboys fan that's not won a Super Bowl since '95, and you're talking to a Bears fan that's not won a Super Bowl since '85.
Quite true. Thanks for the reminder.
We hate to see this team that's in the Super Bowl every single year in and year out. But obviously, it's because they're smarter and know how to run the business a little bit better than we do. So, who's to say who knows what we're doing? But anyways, that is the first round. That's how I've got things shaking out. Day 2, day 3, guys. We want to kind of touch on, maybe one or two just to wrap up the show here before we get ready to go to Nashville later on this week. Let's go running back wise. Day 2, day 3 running back that you like, and maybe a possible fit.
Ooh. Wow, good question. So there's probably a couple backs that I like day 2, day 3. I think we've talked about Darrell Henderson, we've talked about David Montgomery, talked about Miles Sanders. I think those are the 3 guys I'm most intrigued to see where they're going to go.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just thinking running back needy teams that are out there and who could possibly go get them. Depending on, if the Raiders don't get, Josh Jacobs in the first round there, I think whoever the Raiders get, if they do go for a running back in the first 3 rounds, that's going to be a great destination for one of these guys. I think the Bills are going to be a good destination for one of those guys as well. LaShawn McCoy getting toward the end of his time there. So
Yes.
I think that could be another really good destination. And you said it earlier, the Dolphins. I don't think they have a really complete running back on that roster as it stands right now. And then, potentially the Texans too, depending on what their thoughts are on Lamar Miller and Deontay Foreman. I think that could be a really attractive spot if a guy were to get drafted. So what about you?
I'm keeping an eye on Travion Williams, Texas A&M's running back. I'm kind of keeping an eye on where he lands. I'm keeping an eye on Mike Weber. Also, in another form or fashion, Myles Gaskin. He's kind of more of a pass catching running back that's out there as well. I think he can kind of go in and fit into a scheme that's looking for a pass catching running back. Some, potentially a Dallas is a landing spot that you could see. I mean, Travion Williams could find his way onto the Dallas roster, but I think Travion Williams is going to be more of a fit in like a Buffalo, like what you mentioned. Buffalo's going to need they're going to need a young running back to take over once LaShawn McCoy and Chris Ivory are off this roster. And we just saw today as well, they just added TJ Yeldon on a 2-year deal. So
Who did?
the Buffalo Bills.
I didn't see that.
Slipped under the radar. They
very, very much under the radar.
That's going to be their pass catching third down back in Buffalo now. So I think Travion Williams is a good fit there. Even a Mike Weber, I think he could fit in well there. I don't think I could see the Buffalo Bills taking a Miles Sanders. I think by the time they're going to really want to jump into the running back pool, I think a Miles Sanders is going to be gone. Now, to point out to where he could go, that remains to be seen. I think he could wind up being a guy. I know I've mentioned Damian Harris to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in round 2, but Miles Sanders could be a guy that goes to the Buccaneers in round 2. He is starting to come up the board a little bit earlier in some of these mocks that I've been seeing here and there. But late day 3, I'm very interested to see if Wes Hills from Slippery Rock gets drafted. He's a guy that I've kind of been interested in. I've watched some tape on the guy. I've kind of read up on him. He seems like he could be pro ready within the first year or two and be a nice complementary back for a team that has a solid pass catching running back, that they just need a guy to come in and do some more early down work, do more of the rushing, take more of the workload in the rushing. I think Wes Hills is going to be a guy that could fall somewhere late in a draft and potentially shake out to be a fairly decent running back in Dynasty here within the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm keeping an eye on him in day 3. Hopefully he gets drafted. I'd like to see him go somewhere, but we'll see how that shakes out. But I mean, we keep mentioning Darrell Henderson. That's my favorite. I really do like. I'm close to putting him as my number 1 running back in this class.
Wow.
But David Montgomery still holds that mantle for me right now. I like Darrell Henderson's game. I'm all about what he can do at the pro level. If he gets in the right scheme, more of that wide open run and shoot type offense. It gets him in space and gets him to be able to where he can turn around and just get upfield quickly out of the backfield as a pass catcher or running. But Darrell Henderson, I think, is going to be a guy that I'm probably going to own late in some drafts and seasonal leagues this year too. So wide receiver, real quick as we kind of wrap it up. Who's a day 2, day 3 guy for you at wide receiver?
A couple guys. I think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is going to be a guy that he's quickly moving up boards as a favorite to be able to start going higher. So he's going to. I'm going to be keeping an eye out on where he goes. Hakeem Butler is another name out there that I'm a big fan of. And another Heffley favorite out there, which you didn't have him out there, but he's somebody that I'm definitely. I honestly think he has round 1 potential. You don't have him there. I do, but based on your draft out there, Paris Campbell's a guy that I'm very intrigued to see. Where he's going to go. I think those are some guys that, for me, those 3 guys are guys that are going to have, not only dynasty league appeal but redraft appeal this year.
Yeah, it's I had Paris Campbell, I believe, going round 2 to the Colts in my team preview. I think he's going to be a guy that they'll grab and plug in to play opposite of T.Y. Hilton in that offense with Andrew Luck, who immediately becomes a player in fantasy football, I think, in 2019, just for what he can do on the field. I keep bringing him up and I keep talking about him, but Andy Isabella is a guy that I'm really wanting to see where he lands. I think he's going to be a day 3 guy in round 4. I don't think he sneaks into round 3. But wherever he goes and plugs into the slot, I think he's going to have some immediate PPR appeal, kind of like what I've mentioned with Adam Humphries before, even going back to last year in preseason shows that we did before the regular season. I kind of brought up Adam Humphries as a guy that, late round appeal in PPR format drafts, and lo and behold, what did we see come the end of the year in fantasy last year? Adam Humphries was a guy that was worth owning in fantasy football formats last year. So I think Andy Isabella could be that type of player as early as this year and in your PPR formats. But Dynasty League-wise, definitely got to grab at some point late in round 2, probably early round 3. Sit him on your bench, see how things shake out. Also keeping an eye on David Seals, West Virginia's wide receiver, put up big-time numbers in college with Will Grier. I've kind of had him all along going to the New Orleans Saints. I think that's going to be kind of a fit. They keep checking in on him. They keep talking to him. David Seals will be a guy that I'm going to be really interested to see where he goes in terms of dynasty formats. And in the last couple, Preston Williams is another guy. Preston Williams is a guy that he's got all the talent in the world. We've seen him, at the University of Tennessee. He just can't keep his head on straight, and he can't stay healthy. But if he can kind of get with the right team that can coach him up, get him to really dedicate himself to the craft, put the work ethic in, I think he can be a guy that'll develop into a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for a team in the NFL. A good complementary piece. A guy that'll have some appeal, be more of kind of a DFS play here in the first 2 to 3 years of his career. Somebody you can grab based on the matchup. Jalen Hurd, another guy from Tennessee we've mentioned before. There's been talk that the Cowboys have been interested in him late in the draft, potentially in round 5, round 6. I would not mind that whatsoever. I think Jalen Hurd's a guy that's still learning the position, and he showed even in 1 year at the Big 12 with Baylor that he's got tools. He knows what he can do. I mean, Jalen Hurd would immediately plug in, as the wide receiver 3 on this Cowboys roster behind Amari Cooper and behind Michael Gallup, and that gives Dak Prescott a little bit more weapons to utilize in that passing game. And then last but not least, Hunter Renfrow, another guy, a lot of production in college. A lot of production in college at Clemson in that, that run and shoot offense that they like to run out there. I think he's almost destined to get drafted to the New England Patriots late in this draft. Another white receiver for this team. But, I think he'll wind up going round 5, round 6. Hunter Renfrow will, and kind of interested to see where he winds up as well. I think he pans out kind of similar to career trajectory, kind of similar to an Adam Humphries, like I just mentioned a minute ago. You know, a guy that's going to get you. He's not going to blow the doors off of you with potential and production, but he might be a steady player that can give you 3 to 5 catches every single week and be, you know, if you're hurting at receiver, you know, come 2-3 years down the road, you need a guy to plug in for a week. Hunter Renfrow might be a guy that you're going to want to play based on matchups as well. So, yeah, those are some of the guys that I'm keeping an eye on right now as we get to the NFL draft in day 2, day 3, Friday, Saturday in Nashville. We're almost there. Just a few more days. We're all going to be together live in Nashville for the NFL draft. Hopefully the weather will cooperate with us on Thursday night. There's talk of rain.
Thursday it's not looking as good. Maybe that'll be early part of the day because we got some golfing to do on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I mentioned before. You know, there's been some people that have talked and you know we've had some like cancellations with softball tournaments, things like that I've played in lately. Is somebody will say there's 100% chance of rain that day. Well, yeah, if one raindrop hits the ground, 100% chance of rain. It's already hit the prediction. So
hey,
I mean,
real quick, B. I
Yep.
just I was on NFL.com and I just created this little group there. So the group name, if you want to join and try to beat Brandon and I, is Woo WOO Fantasy. Password for the group is Woo WOO. So Woo Fantasy is the name of the group on NFL.com. Predict the pick. And password Woo. So come join us. See if you can beat the experts, aka beat me, and Brandon might be there.
There you go. And we'll get that group and password out through the Twitter at Woo_fantasy. I'll retweet that as well at Roto Superstar. I'll probably try to get a lot of my chums over at rotoballer.com to jump into that group as well. We'll try to make a little fun little contest out of this as we get to round 1 on Thursday night. So be on the lookout for that. We'll put that out there here in the next little bit, some point later on this evening. But we're, like I just mentioned, we're almost there. Thursday night, first round NFL draft. I can't wait to get there. I know Nick can as well. He's ready to get there, ready to start celebrating the weekend with the fellas. It's the whole point of the weekend.
We've talked about doing this forever. You know, I didn't. You know, we've talked about this. I mean, as long as I've known you, about going up to New York and doing this, and the fact that it's now in our backyard, and we don't have to travel all the way up there to be able to do that is awesome.
Yeah. And
so,
we will,
yeah.
and I'll make sure to update you. We're gonna I'm gonna probably try to put together some quick podcast things here and there over the course of the weekend if we can get around to it. If time allows, I would love to try to get as many of the guys together and try to do a little bit of a discussion of what we've seen for the draft while we've been there. If we get
I mean, we'll have. I mean, that night we'll have a rooftop. We got a little patio on the rooftop there to be able to go enjoy with fire pit, all that good stuff. So it might be a good session to set this puppy up. And
exactly. And then
have 10 guys on there just talking the entire time.
Shooting away, firing from the hip. I'm going to try to see if I can't get a hold of some of the potential fantasy football experts that might be in town as well for the draft.
I have to invite them over and
gonna try to reach out and see if I can't find anybody that's out there ready to do some talk. And I will also update you guys as to how bad that I beat Nick at golf on Friday morning. That's pretty much a given at this point in time. I'm predicting at least a 5-stroke win. So we'll see how that plays out. Unless we decide to go best ball,
we're both bad.
We'll find out how that goes. But anyways, Thursday night, round 1, NFL draft. We're ready to get there.
Finally
Nick,
here.
Where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me at the real FF Goat. Come follow me.
And also me, I am the Roto Superstar on Twitter. Just mentioned the podcast. Our Twitter account there is at Woo_fantasy. Next couple of days going to be wrapping up the team previews for the NFL draft. Also going to have my mock draft and some tidbits and some of the fantasy relevant players. I'm going to have those out there as well here in the next day or two over at rotobowler.com. But until we talk to you guys again, we will see you Thursday night, round 1 NFL draft. We will see you later.
Woo!